Truth and love, our call is clerical. Come be a strong and neutral band. For God and country, freely pledge we all. Led by the flag for which we stand. Blue for the mind that speaks the good and true. Red for a province in the game. White for the glory of a heart that's pure. Bright with an ever shining flame. Alma Mater, we hail. Lord, give the earth and great success. With truth and love, we'll conquer all. For God, a land and excellent land. Alma Mater, we hail. God give the us and great success. With truth and love, we'll conquer all. For God, our land and excellent land. Truth and love, let us unite in peace. To our glorious college street. High on the hill, a better light is seen. Leading our children on to faith. March on to glory, it's a message bold. Spread truth and love both far and wide. Loyal to the hands to rains of guidance. Teacher and pupil side by side. Alpha Mater, we hail. God give the us and great success. With truth and love, we'll conquer all. For God, our land and excellent land. Alma Mater, we hail. God give the us and great success. With truth and love, we conquer all. For God, our land and excellent land.
A wonderful morning to all dignitaries and participants present here. With great joy and immense exultation, I, Shiva Atilakha, student of BA first year, on behalf of the management, principal, Dr. Katie Thomas sir, and staff of St. Francis de Sales College, Nagpur, welcome you all to this national webinar on Human Rights Day. St. Francis de Sales College, established in the year 1956 by Catholic Archdiocese of Nagpur, is situated in the lush green, sylvan surroundings and tranquil atmosphere of Seminary Hills, making the ambience of our institution conducive for learning. It is one of the pioneer institutes in central India, accredited with A grade and CGPA score of 3.23 by NAC in the third cycle of its accreditation. And so, the college stands for excellence in academics and integrity of character. Now, as Jane Goodall had said, you cannot get through a single day without having an impact on the world around you. What you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make. Our institution aims to inculcate a sense of responsibility, devotion to duty, and commitment to society in the students. It also seeks to foster a keen, analytical thinking among its students by providing them a blend of tradition and modernity. The SFS College is committed to guide the students for academic success and also train them to be self-reliant, keen, and responsible citizens. Here, a student is taught ethics, disciplines, morals, values, and humanitarianism
Hello.
that propels the youth to build a caring and sharing society. At the same time, a student is also taught to voice his opinions and views where they matter, thus preparing his students for the challenging world. Now, as former United Nations Deputy Secretary General Jane Ellison had said, there can be no peace without development, no development without peace, and no lasting peace or sustainable development without respect for human rights and the rule of law. so we can fairly correlate the relation between human rights and the pursuit of an egalitarian and prosperous world. Man's ability to think and speak independently makes him a unique species, and human rights ensure that man cherishes these qualities by providing an environment where genuine and humanly ideas can flow freely, where people can express their thoughts and ideas without fear of victimization, and peaceful coexistence of humanity with dignity and tolerance for each other. Every human is entitled to this right, irrespective of their culture, color, or religion. Humanity works on the principles of equality, fraternity, and justice, and is an essence of any democracy around the world. Human rights have thrived and succeeded to uphold human values, but at the same time, while cherishing these rights, it has also become a necessity and responsibility of each one of us to protect, educate, and propagate human rights to even the weakest person of the society, so that they can realize their rights and live with dignity. With the same objective, on this International Human Rights Day, St. Francis de Sales College has organized this one-day national webinar on Indian democracy and human rights, a dialectical relationship, to deliberate on the significance of democracy and the fundamental role of human rights and education to empower the citizen. Now, to enlighten us further, we are very fortunate to have two renowned speakers with us today who will express their views on this topic and also share their expertise, experience, and knowledge with us. So, now to invite our first speaker, I would like to hand over the further proceedings to Om Shukla. Over to you, Om.
Thank you, Shiva. So now, I, Om Shukla of BA second year, with immense pleasure, would like to take this opportunity to introduce our first guest speaker of the day, Dr. Suresh Kar sir, a highly experienced and reputed personality. Sir has served as resource person in universities like Nagpur, Amravati, Pune and Aligarh, teaching on human rights and welfare. Sir has taken part in various activities and served for 3 years in Rashtriya Seva Dal. He has done communal harmony work in Bhagalpur by establishing 115 Mohalla committees. Sir started working from 1973 and has attained a lot of experience over the years. He has played a very vital role of a peacemaker in several riots, some notable ones being the 1993 Mumbai communal riot, the 1999 Akola communal riot, the 2002 Gujarat communal riot, and many more. Sir has to his credit the unearthing of numerous facts and various incidents that have happened in various stages across the nation. He has the declaration of many findings to his name and has covered the 2002 Gujarat riots, the 2006 RSS headquarters Nagpur attack, the 2008 Batla House Delhi incident, the 2611 Mumbai terrorist attack, and many more. Sir has done inquiry of more than 60 communal caste-related incidents and human rights violences in India and abroad. He is the founder, member of many noteworthy organizations and establishments that work for upliftment of society at large, like the All India Secular Forum, People's Vigilance Commission, AISF, etc. Sir is also the convener of All India Secular Forum and Dharm Nirpeksh Nagrik Manch Nagpur. Sir is the visiting professor of Mahatma Gandhi Antarashtriya Hindi Vishwavidyalaya for Peace Studies, a resource person of UGC Teachers Training Program, President of India Palestine Solidarity Forum, and the list is endless. Sir's extensive work for the human society at large has made him receive many prestigious awards like Maharashtra Foundation Award from America, the Award of Jyotiba Phule from Akola, the Mahatma Gandhi Award from Ujjain, the Rajasthan Lion Award, the Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia Award, etc. Sir has participated in various seminars covering topics like tribal unrest in Central India, causes, challenges and possibilities, national integration, Hindi Swaraj, development paradigm, and caste problems in India. Sir has been the resource person at many national level seminars across the nation. Before we move ahead, I would like to inform our viewers to post their queries in YouTube live chat box and Google Meet chat box, which would be addressed by Sir after his talk. So, I now take this opportunity to invite Dr. Suresh Kar sir to enlighten and educate us with his experience and knowledge. Over to you, sir.
नमस्कार। आज पूरे विश्व भर में 73rd 73वां मानवाधिकार दिवस मनाया जा रहा है। 10 दिसंबर 1948, 10 दिसंबर 1941 को 1948 को यूएनओ ने मानवाधिकार दिवस की घोषणा की। इसकी मुख्य वजह फर्स्ट और सेकंड वर्ल्ड वॉर में, और मुख्य रूप से सेकंड वर्ल्ड वॉर में जो जू का जो मैसेकर हुआ है, जिसको प्रोग्राम भी बोल सकते हैं अंग्रेजी में, 60 लाख से ऊपर जूस को उस समय मारा गया है। और भी बहुत कुछ नुकसान हुआ है सेकंड वर्ल्ड वॉर में। और उसी के बाद में यूएनओ की स्थापना हुई, और उसके बाद में 3 साल के बाद में यूएनओ ने मानवाधिकार दिवस की घोषणा की, जो आज है, विश्व भर में मनाया जा रहा है। हम भारत में बैठ के बोल रहे हैं, वो भी नागपुर में बैठ के बोल रहे हैं, जो भारत का हृदय स्थल है। अगर भारत के मैप को हम क्रॉस करेंगे तो बीच के सेंटर में शायद नागपुर ही आता है, इसीलिए यहाँ 0 माइल भी है। वैसे भी मानवाधिकार की कंसेप्ट ये अचानक 1948 में नहीं कॉइन हुई। ये इसके पहले वेद, उपनिषद, कुरान, हदीस, बाइबल, यहाँ तक कि बेबीलोन मेसोपोटामिया की कल्चर में का हम्मुराबी लॉ, उसमें भी इसका समावेश थोड़ा बहुत मिलता है। यानी मानव के विकास क्रम में ये सब सभ्यताओं के जो अलग अलग जो पैमाने हैं, जिसमें मानवाधिकार भी एक शुमार होता है, उसका समावेश ऑफिशियली जब सेकंड वर्ल्ड वॉर के बाद में यूएनओ की स्थापना की गई, उस समय तो 50-60 ही मेंबर थे, आज 200 है। और ये 200 देशों में आज शायद मानवाधिकार का दिवस भी मनाया जा रहा होगा। और इसके पहले 12वीं शताब्दी के शुरुआत में इंग्लैंड में, जिसको मैग्ना चार्टा बोलते, वहां भी इस तरह के कुछ मानवाधिकारों की घोषणा हुई थी। उसके बाद में 17वीं शताब्दी में फ्रांस की राज्य क्रांति में से भी स्वातंत्र, समता, बंधुता, ये 3 शब्द जो डॉक्टर अंबेडकर के जीवन के मंत्र बन गए, वो उसी में से कॉइन हुए थे। और उसी के एग्जैक्ट 3 साल के बाद में खुद अमेरिका ने भी इस ढंग की कोशिश की थी। लेकिन ये ब्रिटेन, फ्रांस, अमेरिका की उनकी सीमाओं के भीतर की कोशिशें थी। तब तक यूएनओ की स्थापना नहीं हुई थी। यूएनओ की स्थापना हुई 1945 में, और उसके बाद में मानवाधिकार नाम का ये शब्द जो है वो प्रतिष्ठित हुआ, और दुनिया के कई देशों को मानवाधिकार आयोग भी बनाने पड़े, जो हमारे अपने भी देश का है। हमारे देश का मानवाधिकार आयोग का हेडक्वार्टर दिल्ली में है, और हर राज्य के भी मानवाधिकार का आयोग है। फिर इसके अलावा बच्चों का भी अलग से बाल कल्याण वाला आयोग है, महिलाओं का आयोग है, इस ढंग के SC/ST कमीशन का भी अलग से आयोग है। मतलब ऐसे हमारे देश में कई तरह की व्यवस्थाएं विशेष रूप से की गई है आजादी के बाद में। लेकिन बहुत पीड़ा के साथ मुझे कहना पड़ रहा है कि वर्तमान में हमारे भी देश का और दुनिया का भी मानवाधिकार का जो रिकॉर्ड है वो कोई बहुत अच्छा नहीं है। जिस जगह से यूएनओ का काम चलता है, न्यूयॉर्क, अमेरिका, वहां पर फ्लाइट जॉर्ज का किस्सा आप सब लोगों को याद होगा, कोई बहुत पुराना नहीं है, 2020 का ही है। इसी साल का अभी खत्म होने में 20 दिन बाकी है। इसी साल में एक ब्लैक, जिसको अफ्रो अमेरिकन बोलते हैं, उसको किस ढंग से अमेरिकन पुलिस ने उसके गर्दन पे घुटना रख के उसको उसी जगह पे रोड पर मार डाला। और आज अमेरिका में ब्लैक मूवमेंट पहले भी थी, लेकिन आज की तारीख में परवान पे है ब्लैक राइट्स को लेके। क्योंकि आज देखिए 500 साल हो गए अमेरिका को बनके, 500 साल का जश्न भी उन्होंने मनाया जुलाई महीने में। लेकिन उसके बावजूद अमेरिका में भी आए दिन ह्यूमन राइट के वायलेशंस होते रहते हैं, और इस ढंग से अमेरिका में वायलेशन हो रहे, और भी दुनिया के कई मुल्कों में हो रहे। और हमारे अपने देश में अभी 6 सालों के आसपास का जो हम अगर जायजा लेंगे, 14 मई 2014 को नई सरकार का भारत में पहली बार गठन हुआ, जिसको एनडीए की सरकार बोलते हैं। और अभी वो सेकंड टर्म 2019 के मई के बाद से वो सेकंड टर्म शुरू किए हैं। अगर इसका भी अगर हिसाब ले तो इन दिनों के भीतर का भी अगर खाली हिसाब लूंगा मैं, तो बहुत सुखद नहीं है। दुख की बात है कि मानवाधिकार के लिए लड़ने वाले ही कार्यकर्ता आज की तारीख में मैक्सिमम जेलों में हैं। हमारे अपने नागपुर के 2-3 कार्यकर्ता जेलों में हैं, जिनको मैं व्यक्तिगत रूप से जानता हूँ। भीमा कोरेगांव 2018 के 31 दिसंबर को और 1 जनवरी का जो कुछ हुआ है, उसके बाद का बहाना बना के भीमा कोरेगांव के मुख्य कल्प्रिटों को छोड़कर भीमा कोरेगांव के सेरेमनी को मनाने वाले ही लोगों को आज उठा के जेलों में रखा गया है। उसी ढंग से एनआरसी के खिलाफ जो नागरिकता कानून का एक तथाकथित जो कुछ नई सरकार ने जो गठन किया है उसके भी खिलाफ में इन्हीं दिनों में पिछले साल कोविड के कारण अभी वो मार्च महीने से थम गया है, लेकिन पिछला नवंबर, दिसंबर और जनवरी, फरवरी भी पूरा क्लाइमैक्स पे दिल्ली से लेके नागपुर से लेके देश भर में, क्योंकि मैं तो नागपुर के भी एनआरसी मूवमेंट में था और दिल्ली से लेके पटना, मुंबई, गुवाहाटी, देश भर के मूवमेंट्स का मैं खुद एक विटनेस हूँ। और उस आंदोलन की भी लोगों को किस ढंग से जेलों में डाला गया है, और वो भी देशभक्ति के नाम पे, राष्ट्रद्रोह के नाम पे। जो भगत सिंह के ऊपर जो कानून, लोकमान्य तिलक के ऊपर जो कानून महात्मा गांधी, जवाहरलाल नेहरू के ऊपर इस्तेमाल किए गए, वह आज की तारीख में भारत में मेधा पाटकर से लेके देश भर में दलित, आदिवासी, अल्पसंख्यक के लिए लड़ने वाले लोगों के ऊपर ही, मानवाधिकार की रक्षा के लिए काम करने वाले लोगों के ऊपर ही इस कानून के तहत सैकड़ों, हजारों की संख्या में जेलों में भी है और उनके ऊपर केसेस भी चल रही है। तो इसलिए मैं आज मानवाधिकार के दिवस के बहाने मैं श्रद्धांजलि का मेरे वक्तव्य के बाद में एक वक्तव्य पढ़ने भी वाला हूं, मैंने लिख के रखा हुआ है जो मैं पढ़ के सुनाऊंगा। लेकिन इसके बीच में देश के मानवाधिकार के वायलेशन के कुछ चंद उदाहरण मैं देना चाहता हूं। हाथरस का कांड अभी बहुत चर्चा में चल रहा है। हाथरस में एक दलित बच्चे के साथ में जो भी जघन्य कांड हुआ है, और कुछ नहीं, 1-2 महीने के भीतर के उदाहरण दे रहा हूं, मैं कोई बहुत पुरानी उदाहरण नहीं दे रहा हूं, ताजे उदाहरणों की बात अगर करें, और ये सब दिल्ली से 100-200 किलोमीटर के दायरे के एरियाज की बातें कर रहा हूं मैं। उत्तर प्रदेश में योगी आदित्यनाथ नाम के मुख्यमंत्री महोदय सत्ता में आने के कुछ दिनों के भीतर 14 अप्रैल बाबा साहब आंबेडकर का जन्म दिवस मनाने बाकायदा सवर्ण लोग, उसके बहाने दंगा हुआ और उस दंगे में सवर्णों के ऊपर कार्रवाई करने की जगह में सबके सब दलित लोगों को उठा के जेलों में डाल दिया गया है। और उसी में से चंद्रशेखर नाम का एक नेता दलितों का एक आज उभर के सामने आया है। और विद्यार्थियों के आंदोलन की तो आपको बात मालूम ही होगी, क्योंकि मैं देख रहा हूं कि 97-98 विद्यार्थी आज के इस वेबिनार को अटेंड करते हुए मेरे स्क्रीन पर मैं आपका आंकड़ा देख रहा हूं, कभी 97-98 हो रहा है। तो खुशी की बात है कि आज सबसे बड़ी संख्या में विद्यार्थी या युवक साथी मेरे सुन रहे हैं। तो युवकों का भी पूरे देश भर में, रोहित वेमुला से लेके और कन्हैया कुमार से लेके जो भी आपके दूसरे साथी अन्य विश्वविद्यालयों में और वो भी सेंट्रल यूनिवर्सिटीज में जो पढ़ रहे थे, उनके साथ में क्या किया गया ये मैं अभी विस्तार से दोहराना नहीं चाहता हूं, लेकिन उनके ऊपर भी झूठ मूठ के राष्ट्रद्रोह के आरोप लगाए गए, जो कि कोर्ट में बाकायदा सिद्ध किया गया कि ये गलत आरोप थे, ये फैब्रिकेटेड आरोप थे। और आश्चर्य लगेगा मित्रों आप लोगों को, मुख्य रूप से मेरे विद्यार्थी युवक मित्रों को मैं कहना चाहूंगा, दिल्ली पुलिस का जो लोगो होता है ना छाती पे लगा हुआ, वो लोगो है सत्यमेव जयते। और दिल्ली पुलिस ने जामिया मिलिया से लेके जेएनयू से लेके, क्योंकि मैं विद्यार्थियों के सामने बात कर रहा हूं इसलिए मैं ज्यादा अभी आपको वही उदाहरण देना चाहूंगा। ये दिल्ली पुलिस ने तीनों यूनिवर्सिटीज के पूरे मामले झूठ फैब्रिकेटेड करके उन विद्यार्थियों को फंसाया राष्ट्रद्रोह के केसेस में, जिसको कोर्ट ने बरी किया है। और कोर्ट ने दिल्ली पुलिस को बाकायदा डांटा है कि आपने गलत आरोप डिस्टॉर्ट करके इस ढंग से किए, क्योंकि वो जो तथाकथित घोषणाओं का जो ऑडियो पेश किया गया वो भी झूठ निकला, वो फैब्रिकेटेड निकला, वो किसी और लोगों ने की हुई साजिश थी। तो वर्तमान में देश में इस ढंग से जो भी जन आंदोलन हो रहे हैं, एनआरसी नाम का कानून ये खुद एक मानवाधिकार का बहुत बड़ा उल्लंघन है। राष्ट्रीय रजिस्टर के नाम पे जो किया गया है मामला, उसका मैं 1979 से मैं उसका विटनेस हूं। तब मैं भी एक विद्यार्थी नेता था और आसाम के उस नागरिकता वाले आंदोलन का मैं भी एक अध्ययन करने वाला देश के कुछ लोगों में से एक हूं। मैं भी गया हूं और आसाम यूनिवर्सिटी के ही कैंपस में मैं ठहरा था, यही जो लोग बाद में मुख्यमंत्री पद पे चले गए। और उसी में से पिछले साल के नवंबर महीने में सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने जजमेंट दिया असम के लिए, देश के लिए नहीं। आसाम प्रदेश का आंदोलन, आसाम की जो मांग थी नागरिकता की, उसके खाली, लेकिन वर्तमान सरकार ने उसको पूरे देश भर के लिए लागू करने की घोषणा की और उस कारण आसाम में तो चल ही रहा आंदोलन, लेकिन उसके अलावा देश भर में भी चल रहा है। और सबसे दुख की बात, हम मानवाधिकार के दिवस को बोल रहे हैं, कॉन्सेंट्रेशन कैंप्स नाम का शब्द आप लोगों को अच्छी तरह मालूम होगा। आज से 90-100 साल पहले जर्मनी में जिस ढंग से कॉन्सेंट्रेशन कैंप्स पर्टिकुलर कम्युनिटी के लोगों के लिए बनाए गए थे, जू लोगों के लिए, उसी ढंग के कॉन्सेंट्रेशन कैंप्स जिसको हमारे देश में डिटेंशन सेंटर्स बोल रहे हैं। मैं डिटेंशन सेंटर देख के आ रहा हूं। मैं गोलपारा डिस्ट्रिक्ट में मटिया कदमतला नाम की जगह पर, गुवाहाटी से 125 किलोमीटर की दूरी पर एक डिटेंशन सेंटर के कंस्ट्रक्शन की साइट पर आधा दिन में मौजूद था। 48 करोड़ रुपीस की लागत से ऐसे डिटेंशन सेंटर अकेले आसाम में 6 बन रहे, और हमारे महाराष्ट्र से लेके तलोदा, मुंबई, न्यू बॉम्बे के पास में बेंगलुरु जहां बन चुका है। देश के मैक्सिमम जगहों पे ये डिटेंशन सेंटर्स जेलों के अलावा, जो ऑलरेडी इस्टेब्लिश जेल है अंग्रेजों के समय से, वो तो है ही अपनी जगह पे। आज की तारीख में वर्तमान में कई सारे उस लिस्ट के बाहर के जो लोग हैं उनको जेलों में डाला गया है। और उसमें आपको आश्चर्य लगेगा, 20 लाख लोग अकेले आसाम में, आसाम की लोक संख्या महाराष्ट्र की भी 1/4 भी नहीं है। महाराष्ट्र की 10-11 करोड़ है, तो आसाम खाली 2.5-3 करोड़ के आसपास ही पड़ता है। उस आसाम में आज 20 लाख लोग नागरिक रजिस्टर से बाहर किए गए, और उसमें 40% हिंदू है, मुसलमान है, और 60% हिंदू है। और मैं उसमें से कुछ लोगों को मिल के आ रहा हूं, उनसे मैंने बात की है, जो पीढ़ी दर पीढ़ी आसाम में रह रहे, और ये नागरिकता के नाम पे किया जा रहा है। जिस ह्यूमन राइट की हम आज बात कर रहे हैं उसी का इस देश के 135 करोड़ लोग आज अपने रिकॉर्ड्स, अपने डॉक्यूमेंट देख रहा है। शांति निकेतन के पास में एक स्कूल में मुझे भाषण देने के लिए जाना पड़ा था। उस स्कूल की मुख्याध्यापिका ने मुझे कहा कि सर, एक 80 या 90 साल का बूढ़ा आदमी, आपसे भी ज्यादा सफेद दाढ़ी वाला, मेरे स्कूल में आया और मुझे कहा कि दीदी, मेरा जन्म का दाखिला, मैं इसी स्कूल से पढ़ा हूं कभी 60-70 साल पहले, मिलेगा क्या? तो वो जो महिला प्रिंसिपल थी वो मुझे बोली कि देखिए सुरेश दा, कि आज एक 80-90 साल के आदमी को अपना जन्म का दाखिला देखने के लिए आना पड़ रहा है। इस ढंग से देश भर के लोगों में अफरा तफरी का माहौल चल रहा है अपने रजिस्टर देखने का। और साथ ही वो आप लोगों को अच्छी तरह से पता होगा, क्योंकि हम नागपुर में रहते हैं, हमारे यहाँ से 100 किलोमीटर भी नहीं होगा आदिवासी क्षेत्र, गढ़चिरौली से लेके और सातपुड़ा से लेके हमारे दोनों तरफ आपको आदिवासियों का रहवास मिलेगा। आप बताइए कितने आदिवासी अपने घर में रिकॉर्ड रखते हैं? कागज नाम की चीज को आदिवासी का कितना संबंध आता है आप लोगों को भी अच्छी तरह मालूम होगा। और आदिवासी क्यों? हमारे अपने भी नागपुर के झोपड़पट्टी में जाएंगे, शिवाजी नगर से लेके और भी यहाँ हमारे हजारी पहाड़ से लेके अपने SFS कॉलेज के भी अगल बगल में चारों तरफ से कई तरह का झुग्गी झोपड़ियों का रहवास है। कितने लोगों के घर में डॉक्यूमेंट होता है आप बताइए? और इस ढंग से हर एक आदमी औरत को उनके जन्म तारीख का दाखिला देने का जो आज एक नया फंडा डाला गया है साल भर से ऊपर, ये भी मानवाधिकार का ब्लंट वायलेशन है हमारे अपने देश में। और आज मैं उस दिन बात कर रहा हूं जिस दिन दिल्ली के राजधानी के चारों तरफ हमारे देश के किसान, जिसको हम अन्नदाता बोलते हैं, ये लाखों की संख्या में पंजाब, हरियाणा, उत्तर प्रदेश, मध्य प्रदेश, राजस्थान, देश के कई राज्यों से, आज नागपुर में तो थोड़ी कम ठंड है, वेरिएबल है, लेकिन दिल्ली और उत्तर भारत में कितनी कड़ाके की ठंड होती है जिसका उधर आना जाना उनको मालूम होगा। आज ऐसी ठंड में मेरे ही जैसे सफेद दाढ़ी वाले, मेरे से भी ज्यादा उम्र दराज किसान साथी आज अपनी मांगों को लेकर आंदोलन कर रहे हैं, और उनके ऊपर वाटर कैन से लेके आंसू गैस से लेके दुनिया भर के क्या क्या हथकंडे अपनाए जा रहे। और आपको आश्चर्य लगेगा, 20,000 किसानों के ऊपर कल तक तथा कथित एपिडेमिक लॉ के ऊपर केसेस दायर किए गए हैं। ये ह्यूमन राइट का दिन की बात कर रहा हूं मैं। आज 10 दिसंबर 2020 को 1973 ह्यूमन राइट डे की हम बात कर रहे हैं। और हमारे अपने देश में 75% आबादी जो कृषि के ऊपर आज भी निर्भर है। यह औद्योगिक राष्ट्र नहीं है, यह कृषि प्रधान देश है। और इस देश का किसान अगर अपनी मांगों के लिए अगर रास्ते पे आया है और वो इतनी ठंड में आंदोलन कर रहा है, तो उसको तथाकथित एपिडेमिक लॉ जो अंग्रेजों के समय से बना हुआ है, जब प्लेग शुरू हुआ था 19वीं शताब्दी के शुरू में, 1906 की बात कर रहा हूं मैं। पुणे का आपको मालूम होगा, लोकमान्य तिलक का सरकार के डोके ठिकानावर आएगा करके आर्टिकल, ये उस समय का कानून को दोबारा ये सरकार, लेकिन विरोधियों के ऊपर वर्तमान सरकार भारतीय जनता पार्टी खुद बंगाल में, महाराष्ट्र में प्रार्थना स्थल खोलो और दुनिया भर की दूसरी बातों के लिए केरल में आंदोलन कर रही है, खुद रास्ते पे है। तथाकथित सत्याग्रह मोर्चे, बहुत बड़े बड़े जुलूस भी निकाल रही। देवेंद्र फडणवीस से लेके अमित शाह से लेके दुनिया भर के बीजेपी के नेता उन सभा जुलूसों में जा भी रहे और एपिडेमिक लॉ का डंडा चला रहे किसानों के ऊपर, हमारे दिल्ली के परिसर में और देश भर के जहां भी कहीं और भी आंदोलन चल रहे हैं उनके ऊपर। देखिए कितना बड़ा कॉन्ट्रास्ट मामला है। मानवाधिकार दिवस के बहाने हम बात कर रहे हैं और देश भर के लाखों किसानों को एपिडेमिक लॉ के तहत केसेस डाली जा रही है। ये दिल्ली पुलिस का और उत्तर प्रदेश पुलिस का, हरियाणा पुलिस का, पंजाब पुलिस का इस्तेमाल करके इस ढंग से लोगों को फंसाया जा रहा है। आज के परिप्रेक्ष्य में हमारे देश में इस ढंग से मानवाधिकारों का उल्लंघन हो रहा है, ये बहुत चिंताजनक बात है। मैंने हाथरस के बारे में बताया आप लोगों को। हाथरस की घटना की जांच करने के लिए केरल के कुछ पत्रकार जाने लगे तो उनको हाईवे के ऊपर नाके पर उठा लिया और उनका जब नाम पता चला मुसलमान है तो उनको देशद्रोह के आरोप में डाला है। देखिए, एक पत्रकार रिपब्लिक टीवी का किसी की आत्महत्या के जुर्म में उठाया जाता है महाराष्ट्र पुलिस की तरफ से, तो उसको खुद सुमोटो नोटिस सुप्रीम कोर्ट खुद लेकर उसका मुकदमा चलाती है, उसको बरी भी करती है और वो आज आराम से फिर से वही चैनल के ऊपर चिल्ला रहा है। लेकिन कप्पन नाम का और उसके साथ और दो पत्रकार है, केरल के हैं, केरल प्रेस क्लब ने भी उनके बारे में प्रस्ताव पारित किया है। लेकिन वो पत्रकारों को सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जज, सुप्रीम कोर्ट के चीफ जस्टिस नागपुर से ही है, बोबड़े साहब, शरद बोबड़े, और वो कह रहे हैं कि नहीं, अर्णव गोस्वामी का मामला अलग था, कप्पन का अलग है। भारत के 135 करोड़ आबादी के हर आदमी को बाबा साहब आंबेडकर ने 26 नवंबर 1949 को जिस संविधान की घोषणा की थी और 1950 से 26 जनवरी से जिस संविधान को लागू किया गया, वो संविधान इस देश के हर आदमी को, हर औरत को, हर धर्म के, हर जाति के लोगों को बोलने का, लिखने का, घूमने की आजादी देता है। केरल का आदमी हाथरस जा सकता है, हाथरस का आदमी केरल जा सकता है, लेकिन केरल के आदमियों को इस ढंग से आतंकवाद के नाम पर उनको जेल में रखा गया है और अभी भी उनकी सुनवाई करने के लिए हमारे सुप्रीम कोर्ट के पास में टाइम नहीं है, उनके केसेस है। उसी ढंग से 370 कानून जो कश्मीर का रिपील किया गया है, उस 370 को लेके आज 370 कानून जो है एक हिस्टोरिकल पर्सपेक्टिव में आया है साथियों। ये मैं 370 कानून के ऊपर देश के सबसे सीनियर मोस्ट कानूनविद एजी नूरानी साहब की 500 पन्नों की किताब दिखा के आपसे बात कर रहा हूं। 370 कौन से ऐतिहासिक परिप्रेक्ष्य में आया और बगैर कोई कश्मीर के विधानसभा को पूछे 370 को कश्मीर के ऊपर हटा देने की बात भी मानवाधिकार का ब्लंट वायलेशन है। 1 करोड़ आबादी को आज इस तरह से उन लोगों ने मिजरेबल कंडीशन में डाल दिया है और कश्मीर के अखबारों को, कश्मीर के मीडिया को किस ढंग से कंट्रोल किया है, ये आज मैं आपके सामने, क्योंकि मैं कश्मीर टाइम्स में रेगुलर कंट्रीब्यूटर हूं और कश्मीर टाइम्स के कॉलमिस्ट होने के नाते मुझे भी कश्मीर टाइम्स की तरफ से सुप्रीम कोर्ट में 370 को चैलेंज करने वाली याचिका, हमारे सुप्रीम कोर्ट को उसके लिए समय नहीं है। सुप्रीम कोर्ट को किसी प्रशांत भूषण के ट्विटर के लिए सुमोटो नोटिस देने का समय है, किसी कुणाल कामरा के लिए छोटे मोटे जो करने को लेकर उसको सुमोटो के लिए समय है। दुख की बात है, मानवाधिकार का संरक्षण करने वाली, उसकी मॉनिटर करने वाली, उसके ऊपर निगरानी रखने वाली हमारी सर्वोच्च न्यायालय अगर इस ढंग से बिहेव करेगी तो हम किससे आशा कर सकते हैं? लाखों लोग जेलों में सड़ रहे हैं, उनके लिए अगर हम गुहार लगाएंगे तो हम किसके पास में जाएंगे? हाथरस के पीड़िता से लेके, उन्नाव के पीड़िता से लेके, खैरलांजी से लेके देश भर के दलितों के साथ होने वाले अत्याचारों के केसेस के बारे में हम किनके पास जाएंगे? आखिर हमारे पास में सभ्य समाज में न्यायालय तो होता है, सरकारी तो होती है, माई बाप सरकार शब्द है ना मराठी में उसके लिए। और बाबा साहब आंबेडकर ने जो नायाब संविधान बना के दिया है, आज की तारीख में उस संविधान की वर्तमान सरकार को बिल्कुल भी परवाह नहीं है। उल्टे उसके खिलाफ में कानून अलग अलग बदल के, संविधान के कानूनों को पकड़ रखकर अलग अलग कानून ला लाकर ये मानवाधिकारों का सबसे बड़ा ब्लंट वायलेशन है सरकार की तरफ से, शासन की तरफ से। और मॉब के लेवल पर जो चल रहा, जिसको सरकार की है, जिसको मॉब लिंचिंग शब्द अब हिंदुस्तान में 73 साल की आजादी के दौर में मैंने कभी सुना नहीं। मैं खुद 67 साल का हूं। ये कभी जर्मनी में इस्तेमाल हुआ है जू के खिलाफ, लेकिन भारत में वर्तमान कुछ 5-6 सालों से मॉब लिंचिंग के नाम पे एक पर्टिकुलर समाज, माइनॉरिटी समाज, वो भी किस बात को लेकर? मेरे जैसे दाढ़ी या टोपी या खाने पीने के सामान को लेकर। और अब एक नया फंडा आया है। हेलो, हाँ, आई एम स्पीकिंग ऑन वेबिनार यूर। हाँ जी, हाँ
हेलो,
हाँ जी, आप ही
सुनाई
के
नहीं दे रहा है?
हाँ नहीं, आप ही के प्रोफेसर का फोन था, बेंजामिन साहब का। तो मुख्य मुद्दा जो है, ये जो पूरा ब्लंट वायलेशन जो चल रहा है, उस वायलेशन के लिए जिस नागपुर से मैं बात कर रहा हूं, यहां से एक संगठन है जिसका नाम राष्ट्रीय स्वयंसेवक संघ है। ये आज से 95 साल पहले स्थापन किया गया है दसरे के दिन। अब 5 साल में इसको 100 साल होने जा रहे। इस संगठन ने पूरे देश भर में, आसाम से लेकर नागालैंड, मेघालय से लेके कन्याकुमारी से लेके कश्मीर से लेके पूरे गुजरात, कच्छ, सौराष्ट्र तक, जिस ढंग से पूरे देश में एक तरह का एक पैरेलल एक माहौल बना के मानवाधिकार के साथ जो खिलवाड़ चल रहा है। अब नया फंडा आया है 1 महीने से, लव जिहाद। 20 करोड़ आबादी का उत्तर प्रदेश है। हम आपने किससे शादी करनी चाहिए, न करनी चाहिए, जो हमारा संविधान हमको सबको 18 साल के ऊपर, जो पहले कभी 21 साल भी था, इसके ऊपर के लोगों को शादी करने के लिए अब आपको देखना पड़ेगा कि आपकी पार्टनर जो भी कौन है कौन नहीं है, आपको कौन सा खाना खाना है, आपकी शादी ब्याह जैसी चीजें कंट्रोल अगर करने लगे हैं, तो हमारे देश के संविधान की जो मुख्य, जिसको हम प्रियम्बल बोलते, ये उसका ब्लंट वायलेशन है। इससे बड़ा मानवाधिकार का उल्लंघन क्या हो सकता है? जिस देश में शादी ब्याह तय करने का मामला अगर सरकार के लेवल पे चला जाए, जिस देश में आपके रोज के टेबल के ऊपर खाने के कौन से पदार्थ आए ना आए, ये अगर सरकार कंट्रोल करने लगे, ये कितनी दुखद बात है। और जिस ढंग से माइनॉरिटीज को, पर्टिकुलरली मैं इस देश के माइनॉरिटीज की समस्या को लेकर 30-35 साल से काम कर रहा हूँ, उसमें क्रिश्चियंस भी है, उसमें मुसलमान भी है, और ताजे सिखों की बात है। किसानों में कुछ दाढ़ी पगड़ीधारी लोग दिख रहे हैं। यही किसान कुछ दिन पहले तक एनडीए के पार्ट थे, तो इनको उस समय खालिस्तान नहीं दिख रहा था, लेकिन अब ये किसान आंदोलन में है तो ये खालिस्तान का हाथ दिख रहा है। उसी ढंग से मुसलमानों के बारे में, अगर वो एनआरसी के मूवमेंट में है, वो कोविड के समय उनके किसी जलसे में उनको मिल जाता है, उसी कोविड के समय तिरुपति बालाजी से लेके दुनिया भर के साई मंदिर से लेके दुनिया भर के अलग अलग धार्मिक आयोजनों में उनको कोई कोविड का वायलेशन नहीं दिखता, उसमें कोई कोविड फैलाने का डर नहीं लगता है। लेकिन उसी किसी मरकज में, उसी किसी जमात उल उलेमा के हेडक्वार्टर में कोविड के पहले से जमा हुए लोगों को आप अगर उस ढंग से पेंट करते हैं, और एक पर्टिकुलर समाज को कोविड के ही चक्कर में आप लाकर जिस ढंग से पेंट कर रहे हैं, ये ह्यूमन राइट वायलेशन का सबसे बड़ा, मैं तो ये कहूंगा, ह्यूमन राइट की सचमुच आवश्यकता माइनॉरिटीज को है। ह्यूमन राइट की सबसे ज्यादा जरूरत अल्पसंख्यक समुदाय को है, देश के दुनिया के भी। मेजॉरिटी समुदाय तो जो कुछ है उसके अपने क्या है, उसको क्या, वो कॉन्फिडेंस है, उसको सरकार का भी, पुलिस का भी, सबका संरक्षण है। ये जो हमारा संविधान में या यूएनओ ने भी मानवाधिकार की संकल्पना कायम की है, वो जर्मनी के जू का मास्टर के कारण ये सब चीजों का प्रावधान करना पड़ा है। कहाँ पर दलितों को, कहाँ पर आदिवासियों को, कहाँ पर रेड इंडियंस को। तो ये सब चीजों को रोकने के लिए ये सब चीजें बनाई गई है। और आज इस मुल्क में जितना इनसिक्योर्ड माइनॉरिटी समाज था उतना इतिहास के क्रम में कभी नहीं था। आज 30 से 35-40 करोड़ के आसपास का माइनॉरिटी वर्ग, जिसमें मुसलमान सबसे बड़ी संख्या में, 2 नंबर पे सिख है, 3 नंबर पे क्रिश्चियंस है, इस ढंग के कई सारे माइनॉरिटीज और दलित, आदिवासी, महिलाएं, ये सब के सब आज मिजरेबल कंडीशन में जी रहे हैं। महिलाओं के अत्याचारों के किस्से हम गिनाऊंगा तो आज का फिर वेबिनार खाली उसी के ऊपर चला जाएगा। तो इतने सारी चीजें हो रही है। तो मैं श्रद्धांजलि का एक मेरा अपना, कल रात को मैंने आप लोगों के सामने आने के पहले एक महीने लिखा हुआ आपको पढ़ के मैं मेरा समापन करना चाहता हूं। शायद मेरा समय भी हो गया है। आज मानवाधिकार दिवस है और आज ही के दिन तमाम सरकार मानवाधिकार के संरक्षण के लिए वायदे और भरोसा दिलाती है। भरोसा हर साल दिलाया जाता है, लेकिन फिर भी मानवाधिकार संरक्षण में भारत पिछड़ते ही जा रहा है और अमानवीय होने के नए कीर्तिमान स्थापित कर रहा है। भारत का अमानवीय होना एक वैश्विक पटल पर भी अपना स्थान दर्ज कर चुका है। मानवाधिकार के संरक्षण का टेस्ट भारत जैसे जाति, वर्ग, लिंग भेद वाले समाज में इस भेद के आधार पर प्रताड़ित वर्ग के सदस्यों के अधिकारों और राज्य के दायित्वों को आधार पर आसानी से की जा सकती है। भारत सरकार द्वारा न ही अंतरराष्ट्रीय मानवाधिकार के मूल्यों का पालन किया जा रहा है और न ही मानवाधिकार संरक्षण के लिए कोई उचित प्रयास। अब सरकार शांतिपूर्ण असहमति को दबाने और राजद्रोह, उग्रवाद विरोधी कठोर कानून का इस्तेमाल करने लगी है, जबकि मानवाधिकारों के अतिरिक्त भारत का संविधान भी अभिव्यक्ति की आजादी का अधिकार देता है। सरकार के कार्य और नीतियों की आलोचना करने वाले समूह एवं संगठनों पर कठोर कार्रवाई की जाने लगी है, जो मानवाधिकार के उल्लंघन के साथ अमानवीय भी है। अब राज्य खास धर्म के मानने वाले को अपनी हिंसा का शिकार बना रही है। एक लोकतांत्रिक देश में चुनी हुई सरकार के प्रतिनिधि द्वारा धर्म विशेष पर टिप्पणियां करना एक सामान्य घटना हो गई है, जिस पर कोई गंभीर सवाल खड़े नहीं होते। राज्य धार्मिक अल्पसंख्यकों की सुरक्षा करने में विफल हो रहा है। यह कहना अतिशयोक्ति नहीं होगा कि राज्य के धार्मिक अल्पसंख्यक वर्ग के विरुद्ध नफरत फैलाई। वही उत्तर पूर्वी राज्य असम में सरकार ने राष्ट्रीय नागरिकता रजिस्टर के प्रकाशित किया, जिसमें अरसे से भारत में रह रहे लोगों को भारत में गैर हो गए हैं। लगभग 20 लाख लोग इस नागरिकता सूची से बाहर हो गए हैं, जिसमें अनेक मुस्लिम और हिंदू भी है। सूची से बाहर रह गए लोगों के कई ऐसे लोग हैं जो वर्षों से भारत में रह रहे हैं, फिर उनकी अपनी पूरी जिंदगी भी गुजर रही है। भारत सरकार का रवैया हिंदू और मुसलमान के लिए अलग रहा और दुनिया में सरकार को फिरका परिस्थिति के लिए आलोचनाओं का सामना करना पड़ रहा है। सरकार के बनाए जा रहे डिटेंशन कैंप भी अमानवीयता के पराकाष्ठा है, जिसकी तुलना हिटलर के दौर से की जा रही है। बीते वक्त में एक आम शहरी को उसे अपनी पहचान साबित करने के लिए परेशान का सामना करना पड़ रहा है। कोरोना जैसी संकट में भी सरकार के तंत्र फिरका परस्त मशीन के तौर पर काम किया। मीडिया, पुलिस अहम है। उच्च न्यायालय को अपने आदेश में औरंगाबाद हाईकोर्ट को टिप्पणी करनी पड़ी कि मुसलमानों को बलि का बकरा न बनाया जाए। यहाँ तक कि ऐसे भी मामले प्रकाश में आए जब पुलिस मुसलमान होने की वजह से आम शहरियों को निशाना बना रही थी। वही बीते दौर में देश भर में मानवाधिकार कार्यकर्ताओं पर भी हमले वो मुकदमे तेजी से बढ़ते हुए छात्रों को समेत किसान, मजदूर व अन्य शोषित वर्ग द्वारा जो भी आंदोलन किए जा रहे हैं उन सबको आवाज बुलंद करने के लोगों को गंभीर अपराधों में फंसाया जा रहा है। और आज हम सबको मिलकर 2 मिनट का मौन उन मानवाधिकार के उल्लंघन के जो भी साथी लोग लड़ाई कर रहे हैं उनके लिए श्रद्धांजलि अर्पित करनी चाहिए। धन्यवाद। हेलो।
Yes. Thank you, sir. It was indeed gratifying to have you with us. You are truly an institution in yourself. You have so much to share and to give to others. Your convictions and contagious and stimulating at the same time. In a true sense, you have liberated our mind and our thoughts. So there are some questions by our viewers.
Please.
With your permission,
Please.
I would like to forward them to you. May I, sir?
Please, go ahead.
When celebrities voice out for human rights, it's sometimes titled as publicity stunt for the celebrities. Do you think this is true?
For example?
So there are not examples are not mentioned. Like maybe.
No, no. This is a very vague question. If you have some specific, you quote some name, I will help you.
Okay, sir.
This is the typical propaganda about, I think so, nobody in India.
Sir, Sonu
I am
Sood can
I
be
am
an
a 50
example.
years old. I am a 50 years old social activist. My actual age is 67, but after 17 years, I am an activist. And my personal observation about human right violations cases, nobody can, I think so, popular stunt, including Mehta Patkar, to advocate Prashant Bhushan. All are very serious activists. I know personally Prashant Bhushan to Mehta Patkar. They are very good friend of mine. So that's why this is not a public stunt, is a, I think so, government policy, I think so. But nobody can, I think so, create a public stunt. Please. Next
Okay,
question.
sir. So some groups require special.
Please.
Okay, some groups require special human rights. Does this mean that they have more privilege over the others?
Please repeat. I will just silent my telephone. I saw
Okay.
noise, that's why. Please repeat.
Some groups require special human rights. Does this mean that they have more privilege over the others?
Again, this is a vague question. What is the meaning of some groups? You can specify. You can specify which
So
group.
the underprivileged groups.
Actually, in my presentation, I already elaborate actual human right concept for minority communities. Basically, human right concept coined by UNO after Second World War. During Second World War, Hitler doing more than 60 lakhs massacre a particular community, and that's why UNO make this type of provision. So that's why constitution to human right to all maximum items for Dalit, Adivasi, and minority communities and women's. Women's also, in my personal elaboration, women's also through Manusmriti is a Shudra. If that woman belongs to Brahman community, but she is also Shudra. So that's why women's also in this concept. So that's why nobody, I think so, claim for privilege for their particular community. Majority community, myself belongs that so-called Hindu upper caste community. I am a Maratha. So majority community nowadays in India is a majoritarianism. Today we are just going through majoritarianism appeasement up to Supreme Court. My personal assumption about all our forums are today as just pleasing majority community. Please, next question.
Why human rights have more importance than human responsibilities? What is your opinion about the human responsibilities?
Yes, I agree with even including your responsibilities and laws are equally go towards. But nowadays we are speaking about human right. So that's why my main focus on human rights. So that's why duty is a different thing. If you call another webinar, I will be another speaker for that issue also. But today we are discussing, our subject is specifically on human right.
Okay.
Not duties. Please.
So this was the last question. And thank you, sir, for your precise and accurate answer. Your justifications are truly unbiased. Once again, a big thanks to you for your thought-evolving talk on this very important topic. I'm sure our viewers have grasped the essence of your talk, and it will help us all to become a better citizens who are more vigilant to safeguard and uphold the rights of people.
Thank you for calling me. Thank you for invite Principal Thomas to this webinar and express my opinion about human right. That's why I also thanks for your institute, particularly SFS College and Principal. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would now like to hand over the further proceedings to my friend Shreya Sakre. Over to you, Shreya.
Thank you. Mother Teresa very accurately interpreted human rights as human rights are not a privilege conferred by the government. They are every human being's entitlement by virtue of his humanity. Good afternoon to one and all present here. This is Shreya Sakri, a student of BA second year, welcoming you all to the second session of today's national webinar on Human Rights Day. For this session, we have a very distinguished guest with us. I am very delighted to welcome Dr. Anjali Gaidhana ma'am for our event. Now, I would like to take this privilege to introduce Dr. Anjali Gaidhana ma'am. Ma'am is the Associate Professor and Head of the Department of Political Science in Hislop College, Nagpur. She holds a doctoral degree from Rashtrasant Tukadoji Maharaj, Nagpur University on the topic Democracy and Development in India with respect to Narmada Dam. Ma'am has published many books like Political Thinkers, Comparative Government and Politics, and the list goes on. She has completed 2 UGC-sponsored minor research projects. Ma'am has delivered talks, lectures, and speeches at several places on a wide spectrum of topics of national and international significance. Prominent amongst them are guest lecture on Women's Day for MSCP staff at Nagpur, role of culture and religion in your lives at Barrister Sheshrav Wankhede College of Arts, Commerce and Science, Mauda. Resource person for the orientation program on significance of social sciences for the staff of schools under MRB CNI Nagpur. On importance of political science and career opportunities for women organized by Women's College of Arts and Commerce, New Nandanman, Nagpur. Ma'am has honored with the prestigious ICSSR Fellowship for Research in 2007 for doctoral research work. Also, she has received awards and certificates of appreciation from Daga Memorial Government Hospital for regularly organizing blood donation camps for poor thalassemia patients in collaboration with Maharashtra State Blood Transfusion Center every year. Ma'am has organized many workshops, and of these, the most recent ones are on the topic Gender Sensitization 2015, Crime and Women in India 2013, Human Rights and Women with special reference to Sexual Harassment in Workplace Act 2015. Ma'am also has special interest in extra and co-curricular activities for student development, which can be pursued from more than 125 such activities organized by her for students over the years, and organizing guest lectures and talks. She has also put her valuable efforts in great deal of action projects by organizing programs such as Adopt a Tree Plantation Program in collaboration with Ministry of Social Forestry, visit to the slums and old age homes to inculcate the values of compassion and charity among the students. Joy of Giving that involves students' initiatives in collecting money and spending it on underprivileged kids with an intention of spreading joy and other related issues. Last year, the technical session of the International Conference on United Nations Sustainable Development of the weaker sections of the society. Before we commence with the talk, I would like to request to our viewers to post their queries in the Google Meet chat box and YouTube Live chat box. The questions will be addressed by ma'am after the session. Ma'am, it is an honor to have you with us today. Without taking any further time, I request ma'am to take over the proceedings. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Shreya. Thank you for such a wonderful introduction. It was very nice to have this introduction here. It was my privilege to hear this introduction from you. As you all at the outset, I'm extremely thankful that you offered me this privilege. I just wait till before I start the I start. Can you all see the screen? Want to inquire before I start? Let me. Can you see the screen? First of all, am I audible to all of you? Can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
And can you see the screen as well? Just let me know. No, no. Can you all see the screen, please?
No, ma'am, not yet.
Ma'am, please click on present now, first of all.
Not yet. No.
Then click on entire screen.
Dilip sir, can you help me? Why?
Okay.
No, sir. Actually, the whole thing like present now, but not bold. Now that it's not. I mean, I started with present now, but it's not showing. So what do I do
Present
now?
means that button is
Can
not
I?
working, you are saying?
That button has. I mean, I started with present now, but that thing is not showing. That is not bold. Like
Is
turn on
there
the
any
caption,
option
raise hand is there, but this present now button is not.
working?
The option is there present, but then the option is not bold.
Further option
So
that
if
entire screen,
I'm clicking there, working.
further option entire screen, is it appearing?
No, that's not coming because I'm clicking on now.
Okay, ma'am. I will
No.
share from my side. There's a technical issue. Ma'am will join in 1 minute. Participant, please turn off the camera. Mr. Lalchand Dalal, please.
Ma'am, ma'am, your audio is mute. Ma'am, your audio is mute. Now we can see the screen. Screen is visible, ma'am, now. Your audio is not coming. Ma'am, please turn on your mic. Yes, now it's coming, I think.
Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, you are audible, ma'am.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
I'm audible now. No? I'm so sorry for the disturbance. I took too long to join. I'm very sorry. But, not much. At the outset, okay, thank you, sir. At the outset, At the outset, I'm extremely grateful to the principal of SFS College, Dr. K.T. Thomas, sir, for giving me the honor of being the resource person for one-day national seminar on Indian democracy and human rights, a dialectical relationship, on the occasion of World Human Rights Day. It's a great occasion that we are celebrating, and I'm extremely thankful. I acknowledge the presence of esteemed resource person, Dr. Suresh Kar, sir. It was indeed my privilege to hear you speak, sir. My heartfelt thanks to the organizers for the efforts taken in organizing such a wonderful webinar on the occasion. So, with this...
Sorry, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am, to disturb you.
Yes, sir.
Your screen is not a full screen, I think.
Okay,
please turn on slideshow.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So with this, I congratulate you all on occasion of World Human Rights Day and for the seminar that we have organized, the organizers have organized. Now, as far as this topic is concerned, I think successful democratic governance must focus on promotion and protection of human rights and fundamental freedoms. For without this freedom, there can be no democracy in any meaningful sense. This is all the more a reason that seminar on democracy and human rights, a dialectical relationship, is extremely meaningful. Before we start with the entire concept of human rights and Indian democracy and the dialectical relationship that they share, I think it's pertinent, or it's very important, that we understand the concept as to what human rights mean and what is also the meaning of Indian democracy, what in the context, understanding democracy in the Indian context, and then probably it's more meaningful that we go ahead in understanding the relationship between human rights and Indian democracy and what are the challenges that we face. Now, as far as human rights is concerned, in order defining human rights would mean that they are those rights which are inherent in our nature and without which we cannot live life like human beings. So human rights basically are rights that we are entitled to for the very reason that we are born as human beings. And these rights are supreme, they are inherent in our nature, they are inalienable, something that cannot be taken away from human beings because one is born with these rights, and these are rights to dignity, life and self-development, because without these human rights one cannot live life like human being, cannot live life with dignity, and cannot have self-development for the development of human personality. Or in other words, it's the essence of these rights that makes a man, a human being, human, and without these rights we cannot live life like human beings. we cannot forget that these rights are not bestowed to us from outside. We, the very fact that we are born as human beings, we are born free and equal in dignity and right. And this is extremely important for us to understand, that we are born free and equal because the fact that we are born as human beings. We are all born equal and free in dignity and right. That is one and all, with exception of none. Whosoever is born as a human being is born as free and equal in dignity and rights, and therefore deserves that rights and dignity without any exception. Now, just to take an overview of history of human rights, starting from no concept of human rights to Cyrus the Great. The significance of Cyrus the Great: he was an emperor who for the first time talked about or established the concept of human rights, as far as he abolished the concept of slavery, or he was anti-slavery, and his contributions are immense. We cannot at this point of time elaborate because we have a lot of things to cover, and so I'll just skip on that. Then of course the concept of Rome's natural law, followed by Magna Carta. Magna Carta is significant because it for the first time limited the powers of the king, because by that time the people as such had no power. The relationship between the authority and the individual was such that the authority had everything and the human beings or the people as such had absolutely no rights vis-a-vis the king. So the king, or the power or the authority of the king, was so much so that they could go ahead with as much cruel or unusual punishments they want to. Now, Magna Carta is important because it limits the power of the authority. And here is in where the concept of this makes it very, very significant, where people claim certain rights vis-a-vis the king, in the sense that the king cannot have the rights of the people now, where that no cruel treatment could be meted out to them, no unusual punishments, and the right to a free trial and a speedy trial by the peers, and the government must have the people's approval to levy taxes as well as to make the laws. Now, Magna Carta is important, I guess, because we talk in terms of the concept that got established as a result of Magna Carta was limiting the power of the government. Now, this becomes very, very important when we are talking about the concept of human rights, because human rights are the rights that, though we are entitled to these rights for the very fact that we are born as human beings, we need government's power to be limited. Now, the starting point was Magna Carta, because it limited the authority of the king, and of course then significant role played by the United Nations Charter, that is extremely important after the Magna Carta. And of course the World War II was extremely important, because here we have Hitler killing approximately 9 million people as far as rights were concerned, and this is the most cruel thing that can happen to human beings. Then, of course, Gandhiji establishing the concept of human rights, French Revolution establishing the concept of Declaration of Rights of Man, that is rights that the individuals are entitled to certain rights vis-a-vis the authority. And then, of course, we have the United Nations. Then we have the United Nations Charter, which is extremely important because United Nations has played an extremely significant role in promoting human rights across the globe, and promoting and encouraging respect for human beings as fundamental freedoms to all is extremely important. Okay, now this entire concept, that is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, is again a milestone document in the history of human rights, because here the declaration was proclaimed by the United Nations General Assembly in Paris on 10th December 1948. That is one of the reasons that why we celebrate 10th December as World Human Rights Day, but as a common standard for achievement for all people and for all nations. So just to summarize the concept of human rights in a nutshell, human rights belong to everyone. They cannot be taken away from marginalized individuals. They are about the relationship between the state and the individuals. Khernar sir very categorically pointed out that we are entitled to these rights, and how the state that is not limited can be very, very cruel and snatch away these rights from the individual. And it's very important here to understand that the context within which this relationship is between the individuals, the human beings that have these rights that they are entitled to by birth, and the state that can take away these rights from the human beings. So it's a relationship between the states and the individuals. The state or the government that respects the human rights will not take away those rights from the human beings. And it's about this relationship that is, and the principle on which they are based is fairness, respect, equality, and democracy. Now, dignity. And in a democratic society, every human being has rights. The most important thing about democracy is, in democracy, every human being is entitled to these rights through the constitution, or otherwise they recognize the fact that human beings have these rights. Now, democracy becomes significant against the background that there are various forms of government. We know about there are many countries in the world that have various forms of government. The totalitarian governments that recognize no limits on their authority, the dictatorial or the autocratic government by a single non-elected leader, again, would not recognize any limits to their authority, or oligarchy, the rich wealthy class, a small group that is again having no accountability to the citizens. But the beauty of democracy lies in the fact that a system that allows the citizens to select their leaders. It entitles the power to the people through vote, and this voting ensures that through free and fair elections, the people elect the representatives to the power. So democracy as a system is based on certain principles. One is free and fair elections, the rule of the majority, that the maximum number of people are supporting that rule, that is popular mandate. Then there is a freedom of expression that is given to all the citizens, irrespective of any discrimination, and various rights are granted to the individual. So this is the beauty of democracy, and democracy as a system is based on a system of interacting value that guarantees personal liberty or freedom to every individual, respect and rights for the individual, equality of opportunity, and is based on the government is based on the people's consent. So this is the whole concept of democracy. Now, it was only after the World War II that human rights have become an essential element of democracy. Now, the opinion is that, which is very, very true, that human rights cannot exist in the absence of democracy, and democracy cannot exist without human rights, which means that there is an interrelationship between human rights and democracy, because democracy talks about the fact that democracy guarantees right to equality, which means that there will be no discrimination on the basis of religion, race, gender, caste, class, or place of birth. And these rights are what human rights are all about, because human rights then become the backbone of democracy. So having understood the fact that there is a very close connection between human rights as well as Indian democracy, human rights also provide a standard for how the government should treat its citizens, and that they are there to protect the individuals. This concept has to be established because it talks about limiting the authority, especially the arbit authority of the government, and you have to have a ceiling, you have to have a framework here to limit the authority of the government. Now, this concept of human rights is based on the fact that your right might come in conflict with another person's human right, but then these rights need to be balanced. So everyone's human rights are to be balanced and protected, and human rights, having a culture of human rights, can help everyone to get along and live together happily. So democracy and human rights are very, very closely connected. True democracy is not possible without the recognition and protection of human rights. And most of the democratic countries have a constitution, either a evolved or a written constitution, that talks about the fundamental principles or established precedents according to which a state or the organization has to be governed, thereby also guaranteeing certain rights to the citizens. So the most important thing that is common between human rights and democracy even Indian democracy is that there are entitlement to rights that are there for all the citizens, irrespective of any discrimination on the basis of religion, race, gender, caste, class, place of birth, and so on. So it talks about rights to all the citizens. There are several rights that even we in India have within our constitution, known as fundamental rights: the civil and political rights, the right to vote, to assemble, to free speech, to fair trial, to freedom from torture, abuse, to protection of law, to right to education, to housing, to health, to employment, to adequate income, to social security, and of course, the third generation, that is collective rights, that talks about the economic development, social harmony, right to healthy, clean environment, and so on and so forth. Because right to life has to be elaborative. It has to include just life. Doesn't mean having life to breathe, but to healthy environment, clean air, and so on and so forth. So Constitution of India also guarantees the fundamental rights to the citizens, and judiciary has an extremely important role that has to play in securing a right to its citizen. As Khairnar sir very categorically and rightly pointed out, that the judiciary is so important here, because where would the citizens go in case of violation of their fundamental rights? So the democratic institution, the most important democratic institution here is the judiciary, that guarantees the security of the rights to the citizens. But here we need judiciary that is independent and is giving justice without impartiality, favor to the citizens, and a judiciary that is not politically committed. So that is the significance of judiciary in the Indian democracy. Now, as far as Indian democracy is concerned, we need to understand that the roots of Indian democracy are very, very deep. Democracy is very, very deeply rooted in ancient India, and it's not a concept that is alien to the Indian soil. Indian civilization has always had the foundational norms of democracy, with having the concept of elected representatives and equality of men and women. We had a history of a Janapadas and village panchayats, Gram Sabha, Gram Sanghs. So India has been a cradle or home of democracy, and has given the democratic ideals to the rest of the world. The Rigveda and the other Atharva Ved also speak of the assembly of whole people. This shows that democracy, as later practiced in Greece, was already in existence in Indian polity. But of course, we cannot deny that the modern concepts are something that we have borrowed from the West. Nonetheless, we need to understand that democracy is deeply rooted in India and has been since ancient times. Thankfully, India has also been an extremely successful democracy, in that sense that we have been successful because we have had elections after every 5 years, where people have elected their representatives in the Lok Sabha. The ministers are chosen among the members. The Council of Ministers are answerable to the Lok Sabha collectively, which means there is an element of accountability. The Supreme Court of India is there as the guardian of fundamental rights. We have a written constitution that guarantees right to equality with no discrimination, and any person, any Indian, can become a president or prime minister, irrespective of whether one is rich, poor, or belongs to a particular religion, race, caste, gender, or place of birth. The most beautiful thing about Indian democracy lies in its religious pluralism. India is and has been a multicultural and diverse nation with a flourishing history of pluralism that has been thriving for thousands of years. We have many faiths in India, and that have very beautifully been in existence for thousands and thousands of years, be it Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, Sikhism, Buddhism, and Jainism. And India believes in the fact that we need not only respect every religion, but also believe that every religion is true and leads to the one and the only divine, or the Almighty. Also, as the world's largest democracy, India presents a unique blend where multi-religious, multicultural, multi-ethnic, and multifaceted heritage of religious diversity has been absorbed and assimilated in the democratic fabric and culture of the masses. So this is the beauty of Indian democracy, so much so that Lord Clement Attlee has commented that India has practiced democracy on a scale that even put the United States of America in the shade. So it is that kind of a democracy that India has. India has been the lighthouse of the democratic movement in the third world. Many Afro-Asian countries have been derived their democratic model from India, and we can conclude the beauty of Indian democracy by again quoting Clement Attlee that said, whenever there is a democratic movement in Asia and Africa, they look to India because India is the spear point of democracy in Asia. India might have been the torch from Europe, but it's burning brightly in India's hands. Okay, but the problem is that Indian democracy, in spite of its beauty, diversity, and the survival of democracy, is facing a number of challenges. And these challenges need to be confronted, need to be tackled on a very, very urgent basis, because all these challenges that you can see on the screen here also are responsible for violating human rights. So be it casteism, where on the basis of caste people are lynched, communalism that takes away the rights of the minorities only on the grounds that you belong to a particular community or on the basis of ethnicity. You have human rights violation on the basis of communalism. Regionalism, that is violation on the basis of region. Poverty, again, is one of the greatest challenges, because democracy cannot survive where you have poverty, because democracy requires participation on the behalf of the people, and people will not be able to participate actively and effectively if we have poverty, because जैसे कहते हैं भूखे पेट न होए हरि भजन, you cannot have that kind of participation when you have poverty. And then this leads to this kind of problem leads to unemployment and unemployment, overpopulation. So we all know that India is facing the problem of overpopulation. And the problem with overpopulation is that human resource doesn't remain a resource as such, but overpopulation means that the human resource becomes a liability. And this is also responsible for a number of human rights violations. Gender equality also is most important feature or condition for successful democracy, but unfortunately we do not have gender inequality in India, and women are always the victim of most of the violence that happens in the name of and most of the most potent human rights violation takes place as far as women are concerned. So the dilemma is that in spite of having all the declarations, covenants, and agreements, today human rights still remain an ideal rather than norm. And that brings us to the most important concept, that how to create human rights culture. So the most important problem or dilemma that Indian democracy today is facing is the challenge not only become successful, but also it is what we are talking about. But then we have, unfortunately, world, wherever we see violation happening anywhere in the world, is a powerful threat to the human rights all over the world. So we cannot get away by saying कि अरे हाँ Germany में हुआ था, so how do we care about it? No, wherever human rights are violated, it's a potent threat to human rights for every person, every single individual. So we have seen human rights violation as far as women is concerned, children are concerned, the plight that they go through, rapes, domestic violence, acid attacks, atrocities by the police and security personnel, human rights violation as far as the police and security is concerned is again very, very urgent matter of concern. Then especially the Dalits, lynchings and democracy, this can become a topic for discussion entirely entire topic for discussion or debate, because whatever is happening in the name of lynching is putting Indian democracy to shame, and it's such a violent, such a blatant violation of human rights that it really shames. It's a matter of shame for every and each one of us when lynching in the name of caste or lynching for the minorities happens, as far as this violation is concerned. Then, of course, we cannot forget that transgenders, be it a queer group, whether they are hijadas, but human rights are violated as far as the transgender communities are concerned, these queer groups, the third gender, and we yet are to come to terms with the fact to understand that all this third gender people, whether they are whatever gender they belong to, are human beings too, and we really need to understand what they go through. We have to recognize them, we have to understand their plight, and we have to understand that they are also born as human beings, whatever gender they are born into. The very fact that they are born as human beings, they are equally entitled to all the rights that we are privileged of having. The most important thrust area of today's discussion, according to me, is why we have just discussed the beauty of Indian democracy. We have seen that it's in this ancient land, in this multicultural, multi-ethnic, multifaceted, multi-dimensional, multi-diverse land that India is, with in the land of Mahatma Gandhi, Gautam Buddha, that have preached values of non-violence, peace, and acceptance, land that has imbibed the value of service to the mankind from Jesus Christ and believes in the philosophy of Vasudev Kutumbakam, that is, entire world as one family. And why is it that we are having human rights violation? A land that not only believes but accepts all religions as true, then the most important, most pertinent, most urgent question is, why are human rights violated? Until unless we do not understand this concept of why in depth and detail, we will not be able to tackle the problem of human rights violation in India. And this is wherein the whole Indian democracy is coming under threat. So the most pertinent question that we need to address is, why are human rights violated? So why are these rights violated? Why crime and violence against women abound? Why is there discrimination against women when the Constitution of India recognizes equal rights and liberties to women, when so many numerous international human rights instruments and treaties and covenants have been signed on behalf of India at the international level? At national level, we have a number of laws and policies that have put in place to prevent and respond to violence against women. So at national level, we have so many laws that are there. The latest being the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act 213, the famous Vishakha case. So despite all these laws, policies, the Constitution of India that recognizes the liberties to women without discrimination, and so many international human rights instruments that have been signed by India, why is it that effective implementation of these laws and the kind of execution that is required is lacking in so many instances? We know that in spite of all these laws, violence against women abound. Every day, it's growing in numbers. Violence against women in the family, in the community. So violence against women is happening. Domestic abuse, domestic violence, dowry deaths, all this is continuing. Violence against women is also condoned and perpetrated by the state, where we have women suffering in Jammu and Kashmir. Northeastern states face mass rape by members of the state security forces themselves. So it's extremely ironical that the state security forces that are there to protect the people, in fact, engage in this kind of rape and mass killings. So killings, acts of torture, ill treatment are used to intimidate and counteract political opposition and insurgency. We have custodial deaths happening in women. And as far as the sexual violence is concerned, including rape and sexual harassment, they are recorded. India records an average of 87 rape cases every day in 19, and as many cases of crime against women in India. We are just talking about the reported cases. If we are to take a tab of the unreported cases, then the number is mind-boggling. So sexual violence, including rape, harassment, is so widespread in public as well as private spaces, rural and in urban spaces alike. So again, this brings us to the question, why? Why is this kind of mass human rights violation happening in a country that we are so proud of? So one of the answers, my search continues, but possibly one of the reasons is absence of feminine energy. It's the feminine energy that is the most vulnerable and most absent energy on this planet during this long patriarchal masculine domestic cycle in the world. Possibly this is one of the reasons that is responsible for, the patriarchal system has done a great damage, in which what we have done is we have wiped out the feminine energy. This feminine energy, the absence of this feminine energy has resulted in abuse, crime, and violence against women. So one of the reasons is it has result of this, byproduct of this has been patriarchy. Violence against women starts from the family level itself, household level itself, and the physical, sexual, and psychological abuses are tolerated by the state due to deeply entrenched patriarchal and customary practices. So we still are unable, because of this patriarchal system, gap remains, and we are still unable to adopt a holistic approach that can address the root and structural causes of violence against women. So the persistence of these harmful practices, pervasive gender stereotypes, and deeply entrenched patriarchal and social and cultural norms remain a serious concern. So possibly the answer as to why crime and violence against women abound, the answer possibly is that based on the idea of superiority of men over women, it becomes a power relationship. What happens is women's position is that of dependence and subordination, and this significantly obstruct effective implementation of relevant legislative and policy measures. The ones who are be implementing these legislations and policies themselves are victims, or they themselves suffer from this patriarchal superior idea of superiority of men over women. As a result, we see that this effective implementation of legislation is not we do not see the effective implementation of these legislations, because ultimately the effective implementation of these legislations is dependent on the cultural and social norms. And we have to understand that as far as we are lacking in gender equality, we will continuously see systematic failures and low rate of conviction for the acts of violence against women. And this sort of contributes to the lack of effective redress provided to the victims. So we need to, if we want a kind of society, we need to do away with gender inequality. We have to have gender equality in place, which means that we have to ensure that both women and men, male and female, enjoy same rights, resources, opportunity, and protection. So we have to understand that they need not be same, they may be different, but what we should understand that they are entitled to the same privileges, and they are able to make choices without limitations set by stereotypes, rigid gender rules, and prejudices. So we have to promote gender equality and gender rights, reduce gender gap that is very, very prominent and in existence in our society, and possibly then we can sort of achieve India of my dreams. India of my dreams is not possible. Round development of India is not possible unless and until we have political opportunities and participation of women in decision making, and women are made equal partners in the process of development. Until and unless that happens, we are far away from that. Then, of course, as far as Dalits, lynching and democracy is concerned, caste-based violation of human rights are very, very deep rooted in India. Caste is a descent-based concept based on heredity, and we see caste divisions dominate every aspect of Indian life. It's a kind of a traditional system that is talking about that is social stratification of the society based on descent and occupation. So we see that because of this caste division, very great amount of violation of human rights take place on the basis of caste. So the reason remains the same, that there are stakeholders involved, the upper caste people are involved, and as a result, caste-based human rights violation abound, and discriminatory and cruel and inhuman degrading treatment is meted out to almost 165 million people in India, which is justified on the basis of caste. So this is kind of worst thing that is happening to Indian democracy, Indian society, and Indian culture as a whole. Then atrocities by the police and the security personnel again is a matter of concern, because this human rights violation taken the very people who are supposed to protect the lives are the people who are violating the rights of the citizens. So this is again a matter of concern. Extrajudicial killings, rape, atrocities against women, torture, death in police custody, and many, many violations of human rights by security personnel and police are committed, sometimes in the form of jungle justice and other times out of sheer location fatigue. So there are the reasons for this are, of course, that they are just a product of the same system that is again very, very feudal, patriarchal, dominance, and the whole concept of power. Whenever they have power in their hands, the very people who are supposed to protect the society take away or violate the rights of the citizens. So we see a great deal of human rights abuses starting from Jammu and Kashmir and to by the very people. Central Reserve Police Force people. The case of Manipur is one of the most shameful incidents that can happen to any kind of a society, and we see that the need for police reform is very, very self-evident and urgent. So training, sensitization, awareness may prevent and enlighten these may lighten these violations. So we need some kind of a human element to be brought in the police reforms, and it's a very, very urgent matter that we have these police and security personnel made more human. So we need to understand that. Then the human rights violation against the third gender community is, we see that brutal torture of third gender takes place in women. Third degree torture is meted out to them just because that they are born in as third gender. So whether it's hijras, again, this can be a very, very single topic that we have to take up in a separate seminar possibly. But because the Britishers, based on the norms of Victorian morality, criminalized and stigmatized hijras. Hijras had a very kind of dignified status in ancient India, especially during the Mughals. They were courtesans, they were used as they did not have this kind of, but because of Britishers and their norms of Victorian morality, they were criminalized. And today hijras live at the margins of the society with very low status, and this word hijra is also used in derogatory manner. They have very few employment opportunities available, and they have to survive as like begging and as sex workers, and the condition that they face is of extreme discrimination, be it health, housing, education, violating every possible right that we can talk about and think about. So there is, as far as the human rights are concerned, as far as Indian democracy is concerned, we need to bring them in mainstream. They have a human right to live with dignity. Here we have to kind of bring about this attitudinal change. We have to distinguish between gender and gender. How do we understand sex and how do we understand gender? Sex is a biological term where we talk about men and women, or male and female, while gender is a social and cultural concept. So gender is by social and cultural concept. We have to understand that the state of being male and female now needs to be relocated, and we have to understand gender as the state of being male, female, born as both or none. Because these people, they are born that way. It's not their fault. They are born as human beings. It's just that they are born in a state which is not essential either male or female. It can be both or it can be none. So we need to think of a world as a place with a spectrum of genders. So you have to decide what is this, and most important on part of us, we have to recognize that if a person is born with a particular gender, we have to respect and we have to allow them to lead a dignified life. So it's very important that we bring about attitudinal as well as behavioral changes towards understanding of this gender. Now this brings us to the end of the entire discussion as to where after all do universal rights begin. So my answer to this is universal rights begin in small places. It begins very, very close to my home, your home. So close and so small that they cannot be seen on any maps of the world. Yet they are the world of individual persons. The neighborhood one lives in, he or she, the school or college he or she attends, the factory, farm or office where he or she works. Such are the places where every man, woman and child seeks equal justice, equal opportunity, equal dignity without discrimination. So until and unless these rights have meaning there, they have little meaning anywhere. What we need to understand is without concentrated citizen action to uphold them close to one's home, we shall be looking in vain for the progress in the natural world, in the larger world. So we need to understand that the entire observance of universal right begins at my place, my home. It begins with me. If I want to see a world full of human rights observance, then I need to start with me, my home, my college, my school. So without a comprehensive effort to address them in schools or universities, at work or home, in the community, in electronic media or place, human rights violation and related violence remains a challenge. So, and in fact, against this background, again, I would like to congratulate the organizers and the principal of SFS College for holding this national seminar where we have started thinking or we have started talking in these terms, in which these issues are highlighted, these issues are discussed. It makes us more sensitive, it makes us more aware, it makes us more educated, it makes us more vigilant and informed, and all these elements go a long way in preserving human rights. So the destiny of human rights lies in the hands of all of us, our citizens and our communities, and it's the onus is on us for creating a culture of human rights that will make this world a better and a safer place to live in for us and for future generations to come. So it is with this that I end my seminar. I'm extremely grateful to, again, the organizers, the principal of SFS College, for giving me this opportunity to be a part of this beautiful and extremely urgent, that is human rights, that is so close to all of us, is the need of the time that we can make now, today, with me and my household, my school, my university, my college, my life. Thank you, and thank you once again. Was I audible throughout?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Was I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. It was an
You can ask questions. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. It was an enriching plus and eye-opening session for all of us. Madam, we feel privileged to have you with us. With your permission, I would like to put forth some questions asked by the viewers. May I? Ma'am?
Sure, please go ahead. I'd love to address them.
First question is, What values does the human rights based approach add to development of a country?
I mean, it's the crux and essence. You have to have a human rights approach as far as the culture, the concept, the norms, the values are concerned. Human values and human rights go together, and human rights and democracy is very closely related to one another. So, as far as human values are concerned, they form the foundation, the crux, the essence of human rights. If you have, in fact, human values right from that every if we can make possible the imbibement and assimilation of human values in every child since birth, possibly it will go a long way in making a person human. With human values, with the person who understands and respects human beings, respects person, and this all together for the development of country, because you cannot have the development of the country until unless the country respects human beings and humans. So all these three together, human rights, human values, and democracy, work hand in hand. And it's very, very important to imbibe human values and human norms so that we are able to live life like human beings. So it's about just the very, though human rights come to us for the very fact that we are born as human beings, but we need to learn to be more humane, in attitude, in behavior, in thought. So we may be born as a person with human rights, but we need to become a person. In order to become a human being, we need to imbibe human values. Okay? They're so important.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question is,
Have I answered your question?
what, ma'am?
I can't hear. Huh. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question is, can good governance be a result of practicing?
I can't hear the question, beta. Can you repeat?
Yes, ma'am, I'm repeating.
Can you repeat?
Can good governance be a result of practicing human rights and in turn to be a backbone for economic growth of the country?
Absolutely. I agree more. Good governance is the crux wherein a good governance, wherever you have good governance, this means that you have the observance of human rights, you respect the rights and dignities of the citizens, and wherever such good governance exists, this means your rights are not limited, democratic institutions are in place, democratic institutions are working towards the betterment of the rights and the privileges of the citizens. All people are treated with respect and dignity, and this it's a kind of a cycle, it's a kind of a fulfilling visual wherein where you have good governance, the rights of people are respected, you have people where people can live with dignity, and all this you have rights. Whenever you have good governance in place, this will go a long way in the development, holistic development of the country, not only just economic development, but political, cultural, social development, where welfare of every citizen is observed, where the welfare is taken care of, and such society, a society where you have good governance, is kind of also become an ideal society. So they are very closely related with one another.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question is, due to this current pandemic, do you think that the rights of millions of people affected?
Can you again repeat the question, beta?
Yes, ma'am.
Please repeat the question.
Due to this pandemic, do you think that the rights of millions of people affected?
It did affect the rights of many. See the rights of wages. So many people are out of job, they are unemployed. Especially, we have the problem of housing in our country. So many people were on the streets. People, millions of migrant laborers were, of course, starving and dying. But then, this was but we also did see during this pandemic that many people came forth with their human values, and they were working night and day. So we cannot but or we need to, we will be failing in our duties if we do not acknowledge the role played by pandemic warriors, as the doctors, the people who were working for the migrant laborers, providing them food, and so many people were fighting this pandemic with on a large scale. But then, though it was a kind of it did severely violate the rights of many, but at the same time, we did see that not only the government but several individuals, several volunteers, they came forward, and we could see the humane side of our human society during this pandemic. So we will be, if we fail to play the people who have worked day and night in spite of the scare and the fear of COVID affecting them own, we see many people striving to work for preserving the rights of the citizens. So in that sense, yes, it did affect the human rights, but at the same time, we see many people coming forward and try to secure and protect the rights of many. So this is what makes the society humane. Such trying times, such challenging times are in fact important, because they enable us to see our role in preserving and protecting human rights, in which see many people coming forward and helping the needy, the poor, the underprivileged, the elderly, the doctors playing such a meaningful role, and many. I mean, the list is endless. Played such a meaningful role. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am, for answering our questions with such grace and patience. I believe that each one of us will take into account the valuable inputs given by you and try to be a better human being for ourselves and for others around us as well. Thank you, ma'am. Now, I would like to take this opportunity
Thank
to
you so much.
Now, I would like to take this opportunity to propose a formal vote of thanks. Once, a great person whispered, showing gratitude is one of the easiest yet most powerful things human can do for each other. With these words, on behalf of the entire institute, I would like to once again thank both the speakers for taking their precious time out and gracing this event with their presence. Your words have indeed inspired everyone. I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the management and our principal, Dr. K.T. Thomas sir, for organizing such a great program and guiding us. A special thanks to the organizing committee for their efforts and support for making the program a successful one. It was indeed a pleasure to host all the viewers of today's webinar. Therefore, I would like to thank our viewers, without whom no program can turn into a grand success. Dear participants, make a note that the feedback link has been posted in the WhatsApp groups, Google chat box, and the chat box of YouTube Live. Thank you once again, and be safe. Now I request everyone to kindly stand for the national anthem.